Hi there. Long time no see, I know. A bloody global pandemic had to come along for me to reconnect with Conscious Nuggets and with you. And here we are. Now, first things first, I hope that you and your loved ones are okay wherever you are, probably somewhere in lockdown right now. I know that for me, by now I'm in a better place than I was when the lockdown started, and even before that. The 1 or 2 weeks before the lockdown here in the UK, we're now in week 4, and the first and the second week, I found particularly anxiety inducing and stressful and shocking and unsettling. And I felt like my mind was really scattered. I found it hard to concentrate and focus on things. Every day, new developments, and it was quite overwhelming. With all these huge life-changing changes. But by now I feel that I have a sensation of things having settled a bit more, and having returned to a sense of calm. So I guess now is a good time to do this video. Also because I have come across a few things that I found quite useful and helpful in these challenging times that I thought I might share. Now, first of all though, I want to stress that there is no right way to feel or deal with this pandemic and with the lockdown. Because, well, whatever you feel, however your reaction was, it's absolutely valid. We have to recognize that it has been so far quite a huge, mind-blowing event. None of us have lived through this before. So it's absolutely fair enough that we might have had some difficult emotions and reactions to all that this entails. And whether you still find it hard, and maybe you find it hard to get out of bed in the morning because you're locked away at home, maybe with no possibility to work. And if you find it hard to get up and get dressed and do something productive throughout the day, you know what? That's okay. If instead all of this has somehow propelled you forward into action mode, and you're someone who all of a sudden is actually doing things that they weren't getting around to before, someone who is finally getting down to a hustling away for their new online business, well, that's absolutely fine too. But one thing I want to also stress is, don't put additional pressure on you right now when things are already difficult. Don't expect to be as productive as you were before, or even more, because you've got so much downtime now. It doesn't really make sense to expect that we are at our most productive during a global pandemic, when there's so much insecurity and fears, etc. Okay? Now, it's okay as well if, for example, you have children and you find it hard to have them around you 24/7 now, having to work as well from home maybe, and having to homeschool them at the same time. There are different challenges for all of us in this. And certainly now is not a time to be judgmental, okay, of oneself and of others. We all have to find the best way for us to deal with the current situation. And having said that, I'd like to talk to you about 2 things I've come across, as I said at the beginning, that I found quite helpful. Number 1 is a concept that is linked to positive psychology, and the term micromoments of positivity I've come across that the other day when I watched a talk by US psychologist Maria Sirua, and it was a talk by Action for Happiness, where she gave a live talk, and she mentioned this thing around micro moments of positivity. And I love the visual that she used as well. So imagine that you have a, what did she call it? Like a slum. And there is everything that's negative about your day and the current situation. So obviously, probably isolation, maybe financial worries, or not having a job, health issues, whatever, okay, you can put in there. But every day also has a pond in which you'll find all the positive aspects. So on a day like today, I'm currently looking out a huge bedroom window with a blue ceiling and sunny skies, and it's warm. I, for my part, would put in there that, thank God, I am healthy. And, well, you could put anything in there. I know that for me would be having tried a new recipe. Now that I have more time, I started cooking more, and I found quite a few new, very lovely recipes that I've been savoring and enjoying the process of the cooking as well. So the point is to be able to acknowledge both the slum or dumpster, whatever you want to call it, on the one hand, and deal with that, whilst also proactively shifting your focus to the pond. The most resilient people do exactly that. They don't ignore the dumpster, I'm going to call it, okay? They deal with it, they acknowledge it, they know it's there, it's not going to go away, but they also make an effort to look at the pond. And it's not about eliminating the impact of the things that are in the dumpster. It's not about having the illusion of counteracting that even necessarily, but it's about when you focus on those micro moments during a day, those give you a respite. That's what they're there for. And one good way of doing this is in the evening, before going to bed, going through your day and asking yourself the one question, with this one simple question: what has been the best thing about that day? And there always will be something, no matter how small it is, even if it was just tasting a very lovely dish, hearing a loved one's voice, having a laugh with them, despite not being able to do that face to face. Could be anything. There will be something, and it's about identifying those things and holding on to those things in order to give ourselves a break a little bit. Okay? So those are the micro moments of positivity. And number 2 is what's called the cookie jar. A cookie jar of resilience, which is a concept that has been put out there by a US Navy SEAL called David Goggins, who has had to deal with trauma and I think has had PTSD because of that in the past. And he's popularized this notion of the cookie jar, which I think comes in really handy amidst the global pandemic. So the idea is that you have this mental cookie jar where the cookies represent past moments of accomplishments, things that you've done despite you initially thinking that they were going to be too difficult, too horrific, too impossible, and yet you managed. So I know that when I look into my cookie jar, there are things in there like being on the brink of not knowing how to pay my rent before. And yet, and I can really connect to that sensation of, desperation and anxiety. But I also know I pushed through it and I made it happen, and I came out of it and I was okay, and I was always able to pay my rent after all. I know that in there is this huge challenge I never thought I would be able to face, but I did. Going to Germany to face my abuser. I did it. So it's about thinking back of those moments that you will have as well, for sure, and savoring them in a time like this, because we often forget what we've already gone through, how resilient we actually are. And it's about reconnecting with those moments, drawing on those past moments where we have shown to be resilient in order to refuel our current resilience. And thinking, well, yes, I have gone through that. I made it through this horrible thing. So I will bloody be able to see this through. Doesn't make us feel much better in the moment in the sense that all of a sudden we feel gleeful and delightful, but it will strengthen a sensation of, well, it will give strength in this difficult moment. And even if we don't know the answer, even if we don't have the solutions to our current problems, it's not about being delusionally optimistic. It's about reconnecting to those moments of past resilience in order to come to believe that no matter what, we will come out the other side. And it's often that belief that gives us the strength that propels us into action mode. And I want to end by saying one thing, which is that both is perfectly possible. We can feel bad about ourselves and our situation because we have to recognize there is a lot to feel bad about. There's a very real loss in many ways. So that comes with grief. So it's very possible to do that on the one hand, and on the other, also acknowledge our privilege, because that's also there. One doesn't take away the other. Okay? I read that recently somewhere, and it's so true. We have to get away from this either or thinking. Both is absolutely true. And if you found this clip useful, let me know. Please comment below, share it, and subscribe to the channel so you get notified when I do another Conscious Nuggets video in maybe a year's time. For now, stay safe.